Here I sit this afternoon in my nice air-conditioned studio watching the waves in my backyard pool, wishing that the weather was comfortable enough outside to be able to sit with my laptop by the pool. But here I sit this afternoon, incredibly confused. This whole time, I have been under the impression that the mainstream media was overly protective of the rights of the LGBT. Not only are they overprotective of their rights, they are protective of their lives. If you were to believe the American media, there is an epidemic of violence against letters of the alphabet. R is extremely mad at Z. M is very, very bitter with the behavior of Y. Of course, we can't forget the symbols, the @ sign, the sign synonymous with your email. The @ sign has been extremely aggressive lately towards the plus identifiers. If you were to believe the American mainstream media, there is a war going on right now between people in traditional relationships and people in relationships that represent progress. Believe it or not, it is not only the American media that feels this way. Many outlets, many members of the British media, they are just as woke as their American colleagues. Anywhere from 5, maybe 10% of my audience, depending on the video, maybe 5 to 10% of this audience lives in Europe. A lot of them live in Great Britain. I receive updates all the time about what's going on over there. 99% of the time, I don't share it with you guys because most of us Americans, we have this tendency to forget that the rest of the world even exists. But this particular story, it caught my attention. As you guys know, the World Cup going on right now. We talked last week about how proud the women from Vietnam were to represent their country on a global stage, while our spoiled, entitled misrepresentation of the values normal Americans actually stand for, they could not be bothered to sing the national anthem. Led, of course, by their fearless leader, America's favorite prepubescent boy, Maggie Rapinoe. Earlier this week, the beautiful women of Morocco, they were playing some other country in the World Cup. I didn't bother to look up their opponent because honestly, who fucking cares? The captain of the Moroccan team is a lovely woman by the name of Ghizlane Chebbak. I apologize, I'm probably mispronouncing her name and I'm not doing it on purpose. And no, I'm also not making her name up. This is not the same Ghizlane that Bob Griner lives on in the WNBA dump. Ghizlane Chebbak seems like your average, nice, typical woman. Very pretty, nice blonde highlights in her hair. More importantly, no facial hair, which is always a plus. Before participating in a game that no one in America cared about, Ghizlane Chebbak was the voice of the Moroccan team during a press conference with the mainstream media. Now, let's just assume for 1 second that me and you, we are members of the media. Let's say we are working for the BBC, Big British Cucumber. Instead of our usual assignment, gathering proper measurements of vegetables to determine the preferred size for insertion, we have been given the assignment of covering the World Cup. Now, if you're at this press conference and you're tasked with covering the team from Morocco, what are some questions that you may ask their team captain? How about we start with, where the hell is Morocco? As off-putting and disrespectful as that question may sound, it is nowhere near as disrespectful as what a reporter from the BBC asked this poor woman. At least asking for directions to Morocco was somewhat reasonable. I mean, seriously, how many of you guys can locate Morocco on a globe? How many of you guys can name the continent Morocco is on? For all I know, Morocco is located next to BLM Island in the Woke Sea. But instead of sticking to the subject at hand and asking questions related to soccer at a World Cup press conference, the BBC, they decided to go in a completely different direction. They decided to play on the stereotype that all female athletes choose to identify as the L in LGBT. Watch for yourself.
In Morocco, it's illegal to have a gay relationship. Do you have any gay players in your squad? And what's life like for them in Morocco?
Sorry, this is a very political question, so we'll just stick to questions related to football, please.
It's about people.
My inside sources tell me his follow-up question was going to be, do any players on your team beautify themselves by shaving their beards like the beauties in the WNBA? First of all, credit to the moderator at the press conference for shutting that bullshit down. This dude actually doubled down and said, this is not a political question. This is about people. What people? I want to know why this dude from the BBC, why is he so curious about the sexual preferences of the women on the Moroccan soccer team? I mean, judging by this dude's voice, I'm assuming this reporter from the BBC chooses to identify as male. With that being the case, these women obviously have no desires to enjoy the grilled woke wiener with him. Maybe this guy is planning on a transition and he's looking for a life partner to embark on the gender journey with him. I don't know. What I do know is this question was completely inappropriate. This was not a press conference at the Shaggin' Dragon. This reporter from the BBC, he wasn't reporting at the Gay Pride Parade on the streets of New York City. This was the World Cup. The expectation at a World Cup press conference from reporters is asking questions that are related to soccer. This is not a dating app. This isn't the platform to ask players about their sexual desires. This reporter from the BBC, he is being absolutely crucified by the rest of his colleagues in the woke media, and rightfully so. It is extremely rare that I agree with anything that I see in the mainstream media, but this is one of those rare instances where I actually understand the media outrage. The government in Morocco, it's not what I would call understanding of people who choose to live their lives in a more untraditional manner. The Moroccan government, they punish people for engaging in what they call sexual deviancy. Translation, if Rob is walking down Rainbow Way in Morocco and he decides to caress the hairy back of Larry, Rob could be fined an undisclosed amount and could serve up to 3 years in prison. Now, if this same thing happened in America, it would be called a sign of pride. If it happened in America, Rob and Larry, they would be celebrated as a sign of progress. When it happens in Morocco, they share a cell with Brutus. Now, I'm not too familiar with British media, but from what I understand, the BBC proudly flaunts their membership status at Woke United Methodist. Now, with that being the case, why would the BBC put a Moroccan soccer player in a situation where she could possibly publicly out her teammates to an unsympathetic government? They do not fuck around in Morocco. They punish men for loving the cucumber, and they don't like women who choose briefs over thongs. Well, Casey, what about the Dylan Mulvaney's in Morocco? Are they treated fairly by the government? Oh yeah, sure. Due to the overwhelming outrage this question received, the BBC issued the standard corporate apology. Instead of releasing a statement on their own website, for some reason, the BBC, they chose to release their apology and they gave it to CNN. CNN? I guess they wanted minimal coverage of this apology. Either that or the BBC isn't all that familiar with the current media landscape here in America. I guess they don't know that no one watches CNN anymore. Now, I'm going to read their apology verbatim. See if you notice anything strange about it. We recognize that the question was inappropriate. We had no intention on causing any harm or distress. That's it? That's your apology? For starters, not one time did I see the words, "I'm sorry." Now, me personally, I'm not big on apologies, but in the rare case that I do apologize to someone, I usually start out with, "I'm sorry, I apologize." And two, they failed to mention who they were apologizing to. No mention of Ghizlane Chebbak, no mention of the Moroccan soccer team. Hell, there was no mention of Morocco, period. What I also found strange about this is the BBC's reluctance to call out the Moroccan government. The media, they never miss an opportunity to call out mythical oppression here in America. Do you think they would have issued an apology if they asked the same question to Megan Rapinoe? The moderator, he wouldn't have had the chance to shut down the question. Megan Rapinoe, she would happily answer. Maggie, do you have any players on your squad who lovingly stare at each other in the locker room? Ooh, yeah, all of them, as a matter of fact. This apology from the BBC was complete bullshit. It was meaningless. The truth is, they are afraid to criticize the government of Morocco. Did you notice the way he framed this question? In your country, it is illegal to have a same-sex relationship. If the BBC asked the same question about America, they would have said, how does it feel to live in an oppressive country that is rampant with mythical racism and it's dangerous to be an identifier? But they're not going to do the same thing with Morocco. No. Same goes with China, Saudi Arabia, Iran, or any other country where there's actual civil rights issues. They feel safe doing it with America because they know they're protected by the First Amendment. You're allowed to be a dumbass in America without the fear of going to jail. I also find it strange that this reporter's identity hasn't been revealed. The New York Post cited several media outlets who spoke with reporters that were at the press conference. None of them revealed the identity of this reporter from the BBC. In a rare turn of events, we have a case of the woke not turning on the woke. Whoever this reporter is from the BBC, I don't think he should be fired over this. It's entirely possible that his bosses pushed him to ask this question. Maybe he was the sacrificial lamb doing what he was told, but he should damn sure have his press pass revoked at the World Cup. This dude's got absolutely no business covering the World Cup. But what do you guys think? Was this question inappropriate? Do you think there would have been the same level of media outrage if this same question were asked to someone like Megan Rapinoe or another American soccer player? You let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.